a lot of hackathons, people think that only developers join them and only you must know how to code.
Hackathons being a really good place to get validation for ideas you've had for a long time.
The MVP that we built, it was more about the slides, the way I presented the product itself.
Hello everybody, we are ragTech and this is the place for Bytes Inventor. I'm Natasha, I'm a software engineer.
I'm Saloni, software developer.
And I'm Victoria, solutions engineer.
And together we are ragTech. Today our episode is going to be about hackathons. So to start off, I'm going to start off with the person who has most recently done a hackathon. And that person is...
Me.
Victoria! So how was your experience like doing that hackathon? Do you want to tell us all about it?
Yeah, sure. So basically hackathons is something that I do kind of on and off whenever I see there's time or like there's something I want to learn from. So the recent hackathon I joined is the Hashnode API hackathon, where you have to use a Hashnode API like integrated into some app and like...
Sorry to interrupt you, but I realized that we didn't explain what a hackathon was. So do you want to like start off?
Okay,
with,
sure. So hackathons are basically like timed kind of like events where you have a deadline to complete a project within that time. So it can range from 48 hours to like even weeks or months, even longer than that. Basically the goal of hackathons is to meet people, build project together and submit it by the end of the whole deadline. So usually they'll have a bunch of different deliverables, like usually an MVP of the app, and then a video for the demo, and then maybe a presentation. So depending on the hackathon. And hackathons would usually at the end of the deadline would have like some prizes. So let's say, if you're top 3, top 5, depending on the hackathon, you'll get prizes in the form usually of like monetary or like Amazon credits or things like that. So that's essentially what hackathons is. It's a place for developers to work together to build a project. And innovate, create stuff together. So for me, I've been joining Hackathon for a while now. So many I couldn't count. But the recent hackathon I joined is the Hashnode API hackathon, where you have to use Hashnode APIs to build an app, to integrate to build an app. So what I built is actually a AI generated learning path app. So you know how Hashnode is a blogging platform. For those who don't know, Hashnode is a blogging community and platform. It has many technical articles there. When you want to go in and learn something, I noticed that there's just too many articles. It's saturated right now. So I want to learn Flutter, and then I search up Flutter in the search bar, and there will be a lot of articles on Flutter. And I'm a beginner, and I don't know where to start because I have no knowledge of Flutter. So I'm not sure which article I should read first, what is the order and all that. And so after I identified this use case, I decided to create an AI learning path generator where you can write down what you want to learn, and then they'll take like fetch Hashnode articles from the API, and then they'll generate you an optimized learning path based on like your current difficulty level. So that is essentially my project, and I kind of joined the hackathon late. It was a 3-week hackathon, but I joined it like the last 7 days. Because at the time I was like just thinking like, should I join this hackathon or not? So I wasn't really sure until like the last 7 days. I got the idea and like, okay, now I want to do this. I just want to build it. So the process of doing this hackathon is at least for me, I just paired up with my partner as usual. So she's a software engineer, and to be honest with you, we don't have like a super extensive background in machine learning, but we have built machine learning projects before. So we're familiar with the process. And because we work together a lot on different hackathons, we kind of know each other's strengths. So immediately, 7 days left, we just, start assigning tasks. You do this, I do this part, like that. And what we did is we built an ML model that can actually predict the difficulty level of an article. So after it predicts the difficulty level of an article, it'll arrange it from easy to hard, and then it'll generate that learning path for you. So I would say right now, because we have to manually label the articles, it's not a really perfect model. We do notice like some articles would have like 2 different topics in one article, like Flutter with GraphQL, for example. How do you determine the difficulty level for that? So there's a lot of these like little hiccups that we notice, and in every hackathons, there's those little hiccups that I encounter.
And it's also in a very short amount of time as compared to as much time you would have if you're actually building it into an app for a company, right? So with a hackathon, you have to solve all these problems in a very small amount of time.
And that's why we basically kind of just overcome it by... So there's 2 ways to overcome like these kind of hiccups. First is we just put them off for now because it's like it's not part of the MVP. Like, you know, we don't have to include it yet. And
it's
then
not the most important feature.
Yeah. So it's also prioritizing, like identifying which feature we have to include in the MVP. And then the second part is, let's say we have to include it no matter what, then we'll try to just brute force it for now. You know?
Yeah.
You know, like, so for me, like, for example, I was trying to figure out the difficulty level. Like, how does the model can identify difficulty level? There's a lot of things, right? Like article length, you know, complexity of the words, terms, and all that. So at first there's all these features we want to put in the model, but then since due to lack of time, in the end we just manually label like that. So brute force, you know. It takes a lot of labor, to be honest, but at the end of the day I'm happy with the outcome. At least we managed to make a very simple website that can predict learning path generating. So I would say that's the most rewarding part about hackathons, is at the end of the day you will have a project. Even no matter how big or small, it's something, and then it's something that you learn from, you take away from building this. So that's been my experience so far.
And this was basically last week, right?
Last 2 weeks.
So you've been like doing this hackathon for the last 2 weeks, and you said like you're consistently joining hackathons.
On and off, actually.
On and off. Okay. And the main thing that you take away from it is that each time you get rewarded by like having an actual product and project. That would assume like if, you know, somebody was coming in new to tech and they wanted to put more things in their portfolio, this is a good way to start, I would think. And also like that entire experience of like you have this very condensed period of time and you're faced with problems, and you have to go through the practice of like prioritizing what are the important things you want to build to make this a minimum demonstrable product, which is also a very important concept as well. And I wanted to tap on this and, you know, share my own experience, this time not just being a participant of the hackathon, but being one of the mentors. And actually you were one of the mentors too.
I was also a hackathon judge and mentor.
It was for Showcase, which is another platform. It's like LinkedIn for developers, but again to expose their API application programming interface to like other people to use. And I realized a lot of companies do this to kind of like advertise their product, especially for developer tools. They use hackathons to get people to try them, and also I think to get feedback on their product as well. So that's one way, like one reason why companies engage in hackathons. So being a mentor there, I realized like I realized that a lot of these projects that people are showing me, they're so talented. Like a lot of engineers and participants of these hackathons are so technically talented. Like I couldn't develop that in that short span of time. So I was really thinking in terms of me being a mentor, what can I contribute? I can't contribute anything that's really technical because it really involves like going deep down, and if I go down and nitpick like, oh actually this could be better, it's also very very like silly because I know you have a constrained amount of time. So I realized what I ended up being able to give value to was more of like how me looking at this as a product perspective. Do I think that you've developed features that people would really use? Are these really like the minimum viable features that demonstrate the full potential of your idea? So that's kind of like where I kind of switched gears. Instead of like commenting on like the technical details of like, oh you should be implementing this and that, I realized like giving my perspective of how we should look at this as a product. Is this the best demonstration of your idea was actually helpful to the participants, and that was my takeaway as a mentor as well for the hackathon, realizing that there are so many talented people out there, but you know, as coming in from the third party perspective, I realized like a lot of people appreciate that feedback on ideas. Everybody wants feedback on their ideas, and I think hackathons are a really good way to do that. You have an idea at the back of your head and you just want people to tell you like, is it good, is it bad, to improve on it. So that was one experience that I wanted to bring up, like vis-a-vis like what you said.
That's nice.
So Loni, for yourself, like I would imagine, I can imagine you organizing hackathons, like would that be right?
I have not ever actually organized one.
Oh yeah, I thought you would have, but okay, like your experience of hackathons.
I have not participated in a hackathon for a few years now, but I was quite actively involved in hackathons as well. So similar experiences as yourself, Victoria. So I used to go for hackathons, but my aim was to come up with I had a few startup ideas, so I wanted to like get my startup off at hackathons because that's where the judges are also investors and things like that, and also to validate the idea maybe.
Yes, exactly.
Sometimes I would go for hackathons as a developer where I'll just see who has a better idea and I'll go to their team and then work on their idea and learn from their experiences. So I used to go back to back quite a few hackathons. It was a really good experience for me. I used to love it at that point, learned a lot of things, especially in terms of presentation actually. So for me the more beneficial thing was how to present MVP. So like after going for a few hackathons, I started getting the hang of what works well. So like I started winning a few hackathons after a few practices. So and I realized it wasn't about the product, the MVP that we built. It was more about the slides and the way I presented my the product itself. So like storytelling way, like bring the problem and then solve the problem and then voila, this solution works like that. And then in that kind of manner. And then there was also like Shark Tank kind of things happening where I'm asking for like this much $100,000 with this much stake in the company, and this is how you do what and what. So startups can be like the tech hackathon kind, and it could also be the other part of it, which is the product hackathon bit of it, where you also have to run through numbers and things like that. And your MVP can just be a Figma app kind of thing. It doesn't have to be a running with a server and a front end. It could just be a prototype of how it's gonna look like.
Basically whatever you need to demonstrate your idea. It doesn't have to be like coded out and like deployed like in production.
So like I realized some hackathons, their actual working solution was very impressive. Then yes, it did make sense that if you can code it out and then like wow, you have already built it. But I don't know how true it is that you built it during that time frame period. So I used to do very short hackathon. I don't like to be in the same space for like 7 days. It'll be too stressful. So I'll just do like 1 day hackathons or maximum 2 days, where the second day you have to actually just present already. So usually you wouldn't be able to get that much work done. But still we used to be able to like just use like mean stack, which is like a web stack that you can use to quickly boot up like a basic front end with like some words and some like Google Maps integration at that time. Google Maps integration, or like some API calling to get some live updates, RSS feeds, things like that. So it was fun times. It'll teach you how to like quickly hack your way out and get a product working with lots of if else, and we call it AI. So I used to love it that we can like mask all of these things and just use these words and voila, this is a product. And then I would put that on my resume because we did kind of build it, or this was an idea. I did go through the ideation process, and you get to meet lots of people as well. So as we used to like team up with strangers or like those who already have an idea, maybe to learn from them, like what have you already done and things like that.
Definitely. I actually love what you said about like hackathons being a really good place to show to just implement and get validation for ideas you've had for a long time, because while every hackathon is different, the ability to like adapt your idea to kind of like adapt it to the problem statement of that hackathon, that by itself it's a very like fun challenge. And just having this platform to showcase it to people and get validation to know like would this be good if I actually turn it up in a startup. And I actually a lot of startups are like spin off like these hackathons too. So on that, like that was exactly what I did for this hackathon that I was a participant of. It's a city hack. It's by AECOM, which is this multinational developer, and they had like various problem statements on sustainability. Actually, I was coming in with one of like my research ideas on like predicting technology trajectories. Honestly, it looks very different. Sustainability and predicting technology trajectories. But I think the fun part was like how can I make my like this idea that I have like implementable to like this problem statement. And I somehow with my team managed to marry it in such a way that one of the problem statements was like black swan events and disruptions to supply chain. And I was just like, wait, if you can predict like technological like disruptions, it could relate to supply chain and we could easily change that use case. And I think that whole process was really amazing. It was less about like the product actually developing. I just came up with a very rough, it was vanilla like HTML, JS, like and that took up the least amount of time. The one that took the most amount of time was the slides. Like, like really learning the skill of like being able to put your ideas forward in a succinct, concise, and elevator pitch manner to talk about like really concisely what is the problem I'm trying to solve and this is my solution. I think that's one of the biggest skills you can get out of a hackathon, because it's not just about like this being a skill to, you know, like build a future startup. It's also about like the skill you need to advocate for yourself at work. If you think about it, you're negotiating for this promotion, for example. How would I pitch the idea of me fitting into this position? It's the same skill. So hackathons are a really good way to like practice that skill. And we always talk about how like you know, people in tech engineers tend to lack these platforms. I think like hackathons are a great platform to marry like you're already doing engineering plus also like the additional part of the soft skills of like pitching yourself. So that's one. The second part I really like was when you said it's really about the networking and making friends aspect. So I actually just came back from Hong Kong, and like, so this hackathon I participated back in 2022. The AECOM organized it, and the digital director of AECOM was one of the main organizers, and I actually made friends with him. And this last trip that I made like less than a month ago to Hong Kong, I just reached out to him and say like, hey, like actually we had a great conversation the last time, and in the last 2 years I've done a lot in like the like tech space. I really would like to link up. And I linked up with him like 2 years later in Hong Kong in a different city, and we started sharing about all these ideas and connecting again. It was amazing. I learned more about the intersection between the built environment and the digital space again, and these are things I can bring back to my work right now. So I think it's really great that you can meet people through hackathons, people that you would never thought of meeting, not just the participants but the organizers themselves too, which is also like, you know, when we were the mentors of like showcase as well. Meeting the participants was also amazing and forging like these new bonds. So yeah, actually now that I think about it, even though I've really only been in like not many hackathons, not as many as you, Victoria, and for yourself you have been like out-ish of the hackathon space because, well, you're a senior engineer now. Like,
no, I mean
every day is a hackathon for you.
So actually this is a myth that a lot of hackathons, people think that only developers join them and only you must know how to code or you must be at least junior developer, because senior developers do not. So there's a lot of myths surrounding hackathons, and I would like to debunk that. One of them is hackathons is not only for coders, so people who don't code can also join. So I've been in hackathons where product managers, marketing people, UI UX designers, they join in, and actually they bring so much value to the team, because that way our team is not so saturated with only people who think of programming, but they also think of the end user and like the problem and how to pitch. Like you both mentioned, knowing how to pitch your idea is like 70% of how you're gonna win the hackathon. The product is good and all, but if you're unable to articulate why is it good, then how are you gonna stand out among the rest? So because I joined a lot of hackathons, my most recent experiences, they're all online hackathons, and partly due to COVID as well. But back then when I was like in physical hackathons where I have to like sleep over, bring a sleeping bag, and like
I've never done that. Oh my gosh.
I brought a sleeping bag, but in the end I only sleep 2 hours because it's like 48-hour hackathon. So when I bring a sleeping bag and all that, and then we actually meet people on the day off and form teams on the day off, like you mentioned, the value is like really being able to like network with those people. And not only that, you actually have to come up with a very engaging pitch like within 2 days, like technically 1.5 days. So that skill is also something that, you know, most people can take away from after, you know, doing hackathons, and that's something that I want to highlight as well. But overall the myth is that you don't have to know how to code, or people are also intimidated to join because they say, what if I don't have an idea? So like what Saloni says, like if you don't have like an idea that you want to validate or test, you can just simply join a team and just learn about, you know, maybe this company's products that they want to, or like this company's problem statements that they're trying to like ask you to solve. So doing that, you can also gain inspiration from like the people that you meet and your team. So there's a lot of benefits to joining hackathons. Overall.
I also wanted to add there that via these hackathons, like you said, like you and your partner, you guys knew that what are the strengths and weaknesses, so then you leveraged on that. So like after going for a few hackathons, I also started realizing that working under very high pressure was not a thing for me, but I could be good in like the other aspects where if it's if like the time is really an issue, maybe I can be like a certain level in presenting, but then if there's someone else, I can take on the other role, or I can do it that way. So even that allowed me to understand that I can actually do presentation, or I can work on the dev work. I can even like help with UI UX as well.
I think discovering like what you can do and what you can actually like learn and improve on is also a huge deal. Like
whereas like in my day job, I would just do the coding part. I would never have to do any presentation. I wouldn't have to look at the UI UX of bit of it. So that's where we got to learn so many things and find your strengths and weaknesses.
It helps you try on different hats, right? Which is really good. So from Natasha's like point of view, because you don't join a lot of hackathons, but you have joined hackathons, is there any kind of benefit that you personally like experience or in hackathons?
I think like firstly, like the people that you meet and you learn from, because like you said, they're not just developers. For the hackathons I've joined, actually they weren't like developer centric. They were just like very broad based. It's about like show us like this idea that will solve this problem statement, but definitely like there was a tech aspect to it, like perhaps AWS or like Google will be like a partner and they'll give you like a sandbox to try out like with credits and stuff like that, which was a bonus for the demo. But because of that, I got to meet like UI UX designers. You get to meet like people from marketing. You get to know people even from like HR, like all over the world. And just putting ourselves in like this small little team and seeing where our strengths and weaknesses could help each other develop something in a very short amount of time. Because at that point of time, like you put egos aside, because all you're gunning for is like, I only have like 2 days, like let's just see like what we're good at. It's not like in a workspace environment where I feel like ego does come into play a lot, and you're just like, I'm good at this, like I should do this. If I do this, like it will boost my my reviews, but when it comes to having to do things, being forced to like deliver something in a very short amount of time, you discard that. It's just like whatever gets the product like out and demonstratable. And I really like that aspect of it. It's very similar to like working in a lean startup, which is what I enjoy, like 0 to 1 products. And I feel like hackathons are an even more condensed version of it. And just being able to like go through these hackathons, I think puts me in a very good place to start like new products, and with like I would say the a more relevant mindset where all I'm doing is I'm focused on like delivering this demonstratable product. I'm okay with it failing. All I want is like idea validation. I feel like I learned all these through like hackathons, like largely. Obviously the other one, like meeting different people from all walks of life to learn from like their skill sets, different hats, like you said, which makes me appreciate my job scope and my work even more. So now I have like an understanding of like, say, the UI UX designer who's next to me, what he's like involved in and how I can help. Two, just learning what it takes to like do something like a startup, and being able to practice that lean startup mindset in like these hackathon spaces. That's 2, and just 3, being able to put myself forward and gain that validation as a person, being there to pitch, to try different things. I think it really boosts your confidence when you step out of that comfort zone and realize like, I can actually like make something out of this. You understand new perspectives about yourself through putting yourself in a very uncomfortable, tight environment to do different things. Like I wouldn't have thought that, like I could say UI UX design, like that I could like spin up like a prototype, a mock-up on it like in such a short amount of time. Like things that I never realized about myself. Also, you hit a lot of obstacles in that short period of time. How you do conflict resolution in a very short amount of time with like people that you know or people that you don't know, like at that point. Like sometimes they put you together in teams that you don't know each other. I think it's another means to like understand myself better and how it would function. So yeah, those are the 3 things I would say I took out from like the hackathons I've joined.
Nice.
Thank you for watching part 1 of our episode on hackathons. In our next episode in part 2, we will be talking more about the realities and challenges of participating in hackathons, as well as any personal tips that we have in overcoming them. So stay tuned for our next episode, and as always, this was ragTech, the place for bites and banter. Don't forget to like, comment, and share this episode, as well as follow us on our YouTube, Instagram, as well as other social media channels, in addition to giving us 5 stars on Spotify and our other podcasting channels. Thank you!